And we are live. Welcome to another episode of the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. Today is exciting. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. We're going to be talking about how to uncover mindset blocks for unstoppable growth. The best way I can put this is a quote that you may have heard before. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So we're going to dive in deep. We're going to be talking about mindset blocks and how to unleash the unstoppable you. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss this episode. We'll see you on the inside. And
we're live.
We're back and live. What's going on, everybody? So, you know what? Mindset. What a perfect way to open this up, because I tell you what, this is like one thing in itself, one element, whether it's life or business, right? It's across the board that impacts every single person that I know, right, in existence. No matter where you're at in life, no matter where you're at financially, no matter where you're at in your game, right, as far as whatever that may be in life, and your goals, like mindset is something that we have to renew daily. So I can't wait to kind of dive into this. Let's just talk some general concepts about it, and then we'll throw in some tips and tricks that hopefully that we use that hopefully can help our viewers as well. So,
Robert, one of the things with mindset is it hits every area of your life.
Every area.
I feel like when my mindset isn't right at home, like in my personal life, it affects my health, it affects my outside life, it affects my business, and vice versa. If my mindset isn't right in my business, it affects my health, my personal life. I feel like it just kind of like lingers into like every aspect of your life. Doesn't that do with you, Star?
So true. Yeah. Just being a mom, right? I'm always questioning, am I being the best mom that I could be? How can I improve? I didn't say this the way that I should have said it to my son. My tone could be different.
Right.
And so you're, and getting into like comparing yourself with business owners, the same thing as being a mom. I'm like, oh, there's other moms out there that are doing this and doing that, and
they're slaying it. Look, they're taking their kid to Disneyland, and doing that, and
I'm with them.
now, obviously, you would think that what I'm about to say, doesn't coincide with mindset. But here's the thing: this is the other reason why it's so important to be authentic and transparent in the way that you show up in life. We talk about this all the time, because that sets the stage for how, that helps your mindset. It builds that tribe and that support system around you, so that when you're constantly immersing yourself with like-minded individuals, it helps, it helps you through those ruts, right? So when you said that, Star, like you working with other entrepreneurs that are mothers that are juggling the whole thing, right? They're juggling the machine. And so by doing that, they can relate. And when you have relatability with the people that are closest to you, whether that's your clients, whether it's just your audience, your tribe, your support system, whatever it may be, then the likelihood that you're going to be there and help each other through it is even more powerful than if you showed up, and you weren't transparent, or, you weren't showing up as your true self, because now you're just emulating something that you can't actually achieve in itself. You won't surround yourself, with the right people. So
I totally agree with that, Robert. And, one thing that I have learned over the last couple of years of helping people write their stories and write their books is when they are like telling me, Tina, my story isn't good enough. Who's going to read my story? I'm not good enough. I'm not this. And I'm like, what? You're a 7-figure earner. What? Like, what? when I hear that, it makes, not that it makes me feel good, but I'm like, oh, you feel that too? And it's a
Mhm.
mindset shift, right? Like you don't feel like, like when you see in Star, like you see all these people online doing all the things, it does kind of disrupt your mindset. But
Yeah.
you also have to realize that everybody only puts the highlight reels on social media. They don't
That's it.
tell you that they
That's
just
it.
got into a huge fight with their husband before they
Yeah.
just did this. They don't tell you that they kids threw up all over the place, and you own like with the in our studio, you only see this little part of my little pretty studio. You don't see that there's a pile of laundry over there and that this is over there. You don't see that. You only see this little thing that I let you see.
Exactly.
Just understand, if you're a mom out there, or you're a wife out there, if you're an entrepreneur out there, even if you're a husband out there.
Yeah. Even us husbands.
Right. We took over with
No,
momhood.
no, absolutely. You know what? I love what Eric actually pushed out here. He says, Robert, out, he talks about pushing the clip out because he talks about, rejecting the victim mindset all over social media, and just general, right? So we won't get, into specifics, but he's saying what a crucial shift in life. And that is so true, right? Because Eric, here's the thing. We live, and by the way, my wife and I, we're just documentary junkies anyways. We like to learn about things. We like peeling back the layers on society and the way we think and psychology. So we watch
Documentaries or
yeah, so we watched the Jerry Springer documentary, and it made me think about that. Like, right, Eric? If you're still
makes you
tuning
feel like
in,
you just have a perfect marriage when you watch Jerry Springer.
right? But if you're tuning in, like that's when you talked about the fact that you either see an illusion, the way people show up on social media, or you see the hate, right? You see the victimizing, you see the fact that everyone wants to put out there, like, it's very seldom that people put the love story out there, right? The empowerment story about how we need to just hold hands, unite, and come together, and to make everything in life much better, right? That pretty much that shift from a what I want to say, like, the shift to a growth mindset. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so many people want to just put out the negative things that are happening in this world. And it's, man, it's draining. And it's so often why I see people from all different types and backgrounds leaving social media because they're like, I can't handle it. I can't handle it anymore. I can't handle the opposition of the way I think. Well, here's the thing. I believe
right after all the political stuff going on and everything.
Yeah, just with everything, right? So we're going to be talking though.
Up there.
Yeah, I think we're going to be talking a lot about that. I one of my favorite things to talk about with my clients is kind of reframing, the power of reframing your thoughts around things. And so hopefully that will help someone else out there as well. And Eric, brother, I'm with you all the way. So just continue to shine light and be that positive instrument that you are.
Well, let's talk about what you do to start having the growth mindset. So one of the things that I've done is, like, 15 years ago, maybe, I stopped watching the news. And I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate, but I do not watch the news of any sort at all whatsoever.
I need to know. I need to know what's going on.
See, yeah. Kelly hates it too. Kelly's with you, Tina.
Then I get it off of social media.
Yeah.
I just don't. I can't do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? That's sometimes removing yourself from it is the answer. Sometimes, right? At the end of the day. Now, I will say this though, since we're already there, you already prompted it. Let's just jump out there. The power of reframing, right? Whenever something major happens in life, whether it's a failure in regards to something that your own personal goal, something you're trying to achieve in life, whether it's an ideology, something that you were looking forward to that didn't come to fruition, whatever that may be, whatever that setback may be, you have to reframe. So here's one example that I wrote down, and that is one idea that most of us put out, or one way that we frame things is, what's the worst that could happen? Instead of saying, what's the best outcome that I can create? So we don't have control. Right? We don't have control over every single situation. I absolutely cannot change the past. Yeah. The past is probably the biggest anchor when it comes to mindset, right? I cannot change the past. I'm not in control of what Tina Torres or Star Cod does. I'm definitely not in control of what social media portrays, and I'm not in control of this computer because half the time it doesn't even work and I can't get online, right? So yeah.
But you can control are the people that you surround yourself with. So if you are around people
Yes.
who are negative or who are creating certain emotions and feelings with inside of you, even if they're family, you can choose to disassociate. And the other thing too that I wanted to tap into when you mentioned like the things that we're seeing on social media, I choose to curate my.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Oh, did she just pause, or is that my internet?
No, I don't know. I think she froze there.
Oh,
That's all right.
there she goes.
All right. See, they already don't they already don't like our talk about this, right?
But you can, right? You can actually click the three dots and you can say that you don't want to see this type of content, or you don't even have to unfollow.
You can mute it, you can remove yourself from it, right? We have a choice. But we tend to be drawn in, and that kind of goes back to, again, I hated using that as my analogy, but we live in a Jerry Springer world where we're drawn to the car, we're drawn to the car crash, right? I mean, it's like instead of actually always just being the champion for positivity and happiness and all the things that are out there, we seem to be drawn to the person that slips on the ice.
I remember a couple years ago, somebody told me, Tina, you need to get out of your little gratitude bubble because there's other things going on in this bubble. I'm like, no, I like my gratitude bubble. I like my little positive bubble that I'm in. I don't watch the news. I don't go into any negative things. I don't go down the conspiracy rabbit hole. I just stay in my little bubble. I like my little bubble.
Well, you know what? And that's, I talked about this. You probably saw that post I put out not too long ago when I talked about, the zones, right? And so, that's a good and bad thing. You can be in your comfort zone because that is your little bubble. Sometimes we have to break through, right? If we want something more or we want to see a shift or a change, but there is a balance. And like you said, though, you can absolutely remove yourself from the things that are going to give you poor mental health and the ability to actually continue to push forward, right? I like reframing. I like challenges. I know I'm rare probably in that case. I am like the first person that will typically sit down at the table with a group of people that do not think the same way. And not in an opposition way, just purely from a heart-centered movement of being able to say, let's just sit down and talk. Like the best way to get through anything in life, the best way to figure out any obstacle or that block, that mindset block is to sit down and to have these conversations, right?
So what do you do, Robert and Star? What do you guys do in the morning to start your day to get on the right and to be in the right mindset, the mindset of growth?
So right now, speaking of gratitude, I'm doing an exercise where I'm writing 3 things that I'm grateful for every single day, as well as future pacing myself as if in the future, what are 3 things I would be grateful for? And I actually like that you do the work that you do, Tina, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's being fluffy and that sort of thing. But really it's not, because oftentimes when we're stressed out or we have those limiting beliefs about ourselves, or we're like, nothing is working. When you sit down and you think about those things that you're grateful for, you really realize how incredible your life is and what you can actually build and accomplish.
Yeah, that is so true. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Star. I was on a stage just a week ago, and we talked about the fact of, when people said the fluffy, you use that word, the fluffy or the foo-foo type lovey-dovey stuff, right? With gratitude, the gratitude specialist here with us today. But here's the thing. I used this analogy when they brought that up, and that is when you're having the worst night's sleep, what do you want? You want a comfy, fluffy pillow, right? And so you may be a hater. You may be throwing shade against all of us that have affirmations, which I was just going to talk about, and gratitude. But when you're tossing and turning in life, right? When you cannot get a good night's sleep, when you cannot experience the breakthrough that you're looking for in life and in business, the best way is the fluffy pillow, right? It's the pillow of gratitude. You can take that, Tina. Take that one to the bank. All right.
Now the gratitude fluffy pillow.
Exactly.
Gratitude, like when I started my gratitude business 18 years ago, it literally changed my life. And then when I wrote my the gratitude book, it stayed on the bestseller list for 16 weeks. That means that people needed that. When I launched it on March 17th of 2020, the day that the world went under quarantine. So everybody needed that positive growth, that positive mindset shift.
Yeah.
And whatever they could hold on to, they were like reaching for. And even if it's as little as gratitude is free. And it's the simplest, most easiest way to stay in the growth mindset and stay in a positive mindset.
So true. So true. So you talked about gratitude, Star. I'm doing the same thing, right? Making a list, constantly putting that down. And I think it's just great to journal. Like, just journal everything in life. It is a major breakthrough. It'll save you thousands of dollars from getting therapy, right?
Like, it's just $1,000 of therapy. Because if you look at it 6 months from now or a year from now, you can look back and say, what was I going through at this time? And go, oh, I was praying for a house, and now here I am living in this beautiful house.
Yes.
I should be grateful for that instead of complaining.
The fact that you even have the fact that you have shelter, right?
I have electricity, be grateful, kind of turn that around. There's a meme out there that says, I'm so grateful that I paid a electric bill because I know I have heat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm grateful for the dirty dishes in my sink because I know that my family ate tonight.
Oh, it is so crazy. Even
around a little bit.
Yeah, even right down to the little things in life, right, that we take for granted. Like when we're sitting there trying to figure out how to get out the 0.00001% of microorganisms in our water, right? I'm thinking about the people that have no clean water, the ones that actually travel 3 miles to grab a bucket out of a dirty well just to bring it back to their household, right? And so that's really about reframing. The other thing, so I talked about affirmations. What do you all do for affirmations? Do you do them at all, or do you know?
I learned about affirmations many years ago in a business that I was in. The I am statements, how powerful they are to say them in present tense. I am a millionaire, because your mind doesn't know what is not happening.
Yeah.
Tell your mind you're a millionaire. It's going to be like, oh, I'm a millionaire. I'm going to start acting like a millionaire. I'm going to start treating myself like a millionaire. I'm going to start thinking like a millionaire. It doesn't know better. It doesn't know if you are a millionaire or not. So I learned about affirmations. So my I am statements, I say those every day too. That is like part of my morning routine, on top of my gratitude, top of my daily prayer, my devotions to God, and I am statements.
I'm glad you said your devotion to God, because so often when I'm also, working with people for the very first time, there's this misconception about affirmations and it being intrusive to your faith, right? And it's not. They really go hand in hand. And in many cases, if you are a person of faith and you have a ritual of giving, thanks to anything, that is already an affirmation. You just call it something different, right? So it's just something to, kind of think about. What about yourself, Star? Do you do anything like that ritually?
I do like affirmations. I haven't been doing them daily, but one thing that I do always talk to my clients about is to read The Miracle Morning. I even send them that book as a, gift sometimes. And so I do want to get back into that because I think it's very important. And I do believe that affirmations can help you. One of the things I wanted to also add to that is, your self-belief system, right? So I've always had very high self-belief within myself. And I think that's why I've had a lot of success. But when I came into the online space, it was very different. I felt like I lacked confidence. And so that's one of the things that I'm continuously working on, is my confidence level, being online, being on camera, being around people, versus me being outdoors and, running a big brick and mortar business and all of the other successful things that I've done in the past. So it's very different. And so being able to understand that there are things that I can achieve versus like what I can't achieve is also crucial. And so I do love affirmations, and I'm glad you guys brought that up, because I want to start saying them, or at least reading them again. I've recorded them in the past so that you can play them and hear them. But I think it's good if you can do it daily.
It is. And sometimes, it's crazy, because in my office, I have, on my monitors, on my whiteboards, I have just little things all over the place. Right. And it's just because I spend a lot of time in here. and and many times you can go crazy, especially when you're dealing with technology. And so in times, and we talk,
Like, I am enough, and you're like,
I have no control over what happens to this computer, but I do have control over how I choose to show up and bless someone today, right? I have absolute control over that. That's something that won't freeze. That's something that won't crash. And so, that's when I shift.
So what else do you do, Robert? Is that all you do for in your morning to start the day off, right?
So I did adopt. Have you ever read the book, The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Schwartz? Okay, amazing book. So hard to live by, because every time I've jumped on that bandwagon and I've said, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to do these rituals. My problem is I'm the guy going to bed at 2 a.m. Right? Yeah. So it's really hard to do that. I've done it quite a few times. I still do wake up very early. So ritually, I try to still, though, cover some of those principles. Yeah. I spend, even if it's 10, like, people don't understand the power of time and leveraging, the use of that time. If it's 5 or 10 minutes in prayer or whatever, that may be your routine in that, reading the Bible. If it's 5 or 10 minutes in listening to even a portion of a podcast, just 10 minutes can sometimes change the shift and dynamic of how you're setting yourself up in the day. And then the other thing is, of course, your goals, what you'd like to get accomplished today. So I am very ritual in that. I'm always jotting those things down. That's important. There's also a thing. Have you ever heard of something called morning notes? This concept?
Oh, no.
It's very interesting. So the idea is, and it works, I find myself probably shifting a little heavier into what I want to get done today. But they say that every single morning, if you just scribble, if you're just like, you get up, anything that comes to mind, anything. So it's like, my dog did this, I'm doing this, I didn't sleep yet, I had a dream about this.
I need to do this, I need to do this.
It's a dump, right? So what it is by logically clearing all of these things, you've actually cleared major blocks that you may have throughout the day, just in that small exercise for 30 minutes. So that's an interesting thing as well. I want to talk about fear. I mean, just based on the time, I want to talk about fear, because fear in itself is one of the biggest enemies of having a growth mindset. Any of you want to kind of leap into that?
Fear will definitely hold you back. And that is what keeps a lot of entrepreneurs stuck. They're afraid that people are not going to be interested in what they have to say. They have fear that people are not going to respect them, that they have enough authority. And it oftentimes holds them back from creating content, showing up, doing events, talking to people, making those connections and nurturing those relationships. So yeah, it's very important that you overcome the fear of failure so that you can actually be successful. And even if it's outside of, the online space, you really have to understand that you have the confidence to actually succeed, and just taking baby steps to have those tiny, tiny wins. Sometimes we're like looking at this big picture. I want to have this huge result. Start small.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, Star. It's funny, because just like when I was telling you about my clients who had the fear of sharing their stories out there, they had the fear of exposing themselves and telling people what they struggled with, or what, whether it was alcoholism or drug addiction or anything. And the amount of times that my clients come back to me after their book is launched and say, Tina, thank you so much. All these people are coming to me.
Isn't it?
Nobody has judgment. Nobody says, oh my God, you're an alcoholic. Right. They're saying, thank you so much for writing that book. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing that story with me, because me too.
The thing is, it goes back to the fact that we're living in such a culture of people judging, right? Yeah. And when we grow up that way from our childhood, this goes way back. This trauma, it's a traumatic thing that goes back to our childhood, maybe even our own parents, coaches that we've had in the past. All of these things where people have told us that we can't be something, or we aren't something, or we're not good enough. And then what we do is we program ourselves to start saying the same thing. Well, maybe that's true. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I can't run that fast. Maybe I'm not worthy of this. Maybe I'll always be poor. Like, whatever that is, whatever story, whatever narrative you've wrote in your mind, you're cashing that check. And so, what do they say? Whether you tell yourself you can or cannot, right? Yeah. And so that's the that's the biggest factor. So in fear, here's one thing that I did find: if something continuously, now I'm not talking about a one-off, I'm talking about something that continuously weighs you down, something maybe even a big factor, could be maybe an unavoidable divorce. It could be closure of a business. It could be a major investment in a business or something in life, just something big. And that fear is holding you back. And so some of the best things you can do is actually write down what the fears are, first of all. And then, like, how likely is this worst case scenario probable, right? Just write those things down. Like this is what could happen. Write all the bad stuff down. And then if you've at least done that, because usually it's here, some of them become very trivial. Like you're just sitting there going, oh my gosh, like really? Like, if a meteor hits the earth, what about tomorrow? Who cares, right? And so when you think about that at the end of the day, you can start to scratch those things off. And then the things that you realize are pretty probable, they could happen, then you start to measure them and you start to create a contingency plan around them and saying, well, if this does happen, what can I do to combat this? Is it money? Is it a shift? Is it a pivot? Is it building, stronger connections, relationships, whatever that may be? And so these exercises are so critical because we live up here, constantly live up here. And so I'm saying in everything we talk about today, take everything here and put it on paper, both good and bad. Put it all.
And another thing I do is, and it's hard because I know it's very hard. It was hard for me to even doing this, but I always know that if God's taken something away from you or getting something out of your life, such as a divorce or a business or a friendship or anything, he's just replacing it with something better.
Yes.
That is true.
Yeah.
I was so fearful when I got a divorce the first time, that time 6 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever it was. And I was so fearful that I would never find another person. I would never find somebody because throughout my marriage, it was constantly told to me, I would never do this. I would never do that. So I had that in my mindset, that my mindset just played tricks on me. And here it is 6, 7 years later, I find the love of my life who is over the moon for me. We're over the moon for each other still 2 years later. And it's been almost 2 years. Can you believe it?
Amazing. That's amazing. And
it was the fear. It was the fear of not finding somebody. It was the fear of being alone. It was the fear of maybe I am not enough for those people.
Well, because the fear, Tina, was attached to pain and trauma, right? And that's what we all do. We continuously sit there in whatever space we're in, and it's like, if this has hurt me in the past, and that's both good and bad. In your case, it was negative things that were inflicted upon you. But even in the good things, like meaning, I'll use this as one of mine. I'll just be transparent. When I was at the height of my, what I'll call my entrepreneurial career, right? My journey, what I call as far as monetary. It wasn't the height because I'm there now mentally. But when I was at the height monetarily and just the world kind of fell apart around you, right? Whatever it may have been, and all that was taken away, the fear is every time I hit that level again,
it was going to go.
I pull back. I pull back without even realizing it because I feel like if I continue to have more in life, if I continue to better myself, to break through in any type of obstacle in life, that I'm going to fail, that I'm going to fall harder, right? And so it's that whole gravity concept. Here's one that I love. I just love this because I wrote it down. It's something that's brought up a lot, and we don't even recognize that we're doing it. But Mel Robbins, the 5-second rule. Anyone have any thoughts around the 5-second rule? And for those that don't know, we'll explain what that is.
I love Mel Robbins. She's very, very harsh, and blunt.
Yes, you have to be though. That's really the disruptor, right? Is being blunt with yourself and those around you at times. Now
I have to utilize that 5-second rule because because recently, and you guys all know that I'm going through some health, like the menopause stuff. It makes you not want to get out of bed. Like literally, I'm like, I have to do this.
Perfect example, right?
I have to do this and this and this, and I'm like, oh, I just want to lay back in bed, right? But I'm like, okay. And then I always think, and I'm like, do I really want to do that?
Yeah. You know,
Motivate myself to do the 5-second rule. So I'm like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
and you do
Oh.
it. And you do it. So think of it as a
Yeah.
launch in your mind, a launch in life, a launch in your heart, a launch in your soul, right? Whatever it is that carries you forward, it's that launch. And she puts it in the example of, again, that countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you just do it. You act on it. But I mean, the underlining thing is it's procrastination. It's how do you combat procrastination? That's another thing.
Well, there's procrastination. Procrastination is your fear of something, or the mindset of something.
Whatever it may be. Yeah. And by the way, getting out of bed is probably the biggest for all of us. I have to say that if it wasn't for the motivation, that's why you have to anchor it sometimes to, a cause.
Yeah.
If it's not the motivation of getting my kids off to school at the bus stop on time, or to make lunches,
or to on the edge of the bed,
right, or whatever that is. But like, that's my motivation. So sometimes that snooze goes off.
Yeah.
We click it, which isn't that wild in itself? Like the fact of how many times in your life, all right, let's just do this. Let's just put it out there. What's the most times that you've actually hit snooze?
Listen, I cannot sleep. So if Tony is watching, he's gonna laugh because he is a snoozer.
Okay.
Like a 4 or 5 time snoozer. Like every 15 minutes, his stupid alarm goes off. And I'm like, oh my God, get up.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm up.
Yeah.
Get up.
It's such a horrible routine. And by the way, we won't have time to talk about it all day. Great topic later, but patterns. Yeah. Patterns are like a big thing. And so, but you're right. How many people, I know people that hit snooze for an hour. So they're setting their alarm an hour before they're supposed to get up.
Like for an hour. I'm like, why do you even do it for 6 a.m. if you're just going to hit snooze for an hour? Like, I
can't do that. Once, maybe twice, but I'm like alarm at the right time.
Yeah, right. But it's a part of disrupting the pattern.
Yeah.
But procrastination, we talked about fear. Procrastination's the next big one. Yeah. And the 5-second rule is just one example of how to create that disruption in life. The other thing is if you don't have enough whys, a big enough why, so continue to attach yourself to that, then really mindset is a hard thing to overcome or to build some growth around anyways. So build a bigger why. And I also tell people this a great deal, that when I'm still trying to figure out self and I'm not quite sure like what's entirely important to me and what my goal or what my objective in life is, what my purpose is, even sometimes for big, that's big thought. Attach it to something else. Continue to serve people to the fullest, and then you'll figure out a lot more about yourself, and you can actually adopt a growth mindset. So even when you're trying to figure things out, if you know that somebody else needs a ride to work and you've committed to pick them up every day and get them to work on time, then maybe that's what it takes to be the disruptor in your own life.
I like what Mama Cheryl said. I'm going to do this for Tony, Mama Cheryl, because she said when she was in college, she would put her alarm clock halfway down the hallway, so it would force her to get up and shut the bus off.
Smart. The worst alarm clock you could ever buy someone was the one my parents got me in high school. I mean, I loved it as a kid, but I'll tell you what it was. It was like a soft, like a baseball type of thing, right? Have you ever seen these? Yeah, to turn it off, you throw it against the wall. Can you imagine doing that now?
No.
So anyways, but I like the concept around that.
I like that.
If you have a daily workflow of what activities you need to do every day, and when you talked about scribing, where you're writing down your activities, you can figure out what objective you want to achieve specifically that particular day. But oftentimes when you have a schedule, that really helps too, because you have a list of tasks that you're supposed to do every single day. Sometimes it's difficult if you don't really know like what it is that you have to do to advance yourself to the next level. For example, I saw someone was talking about prospecting yesterday, and they were saying that a lot of times people will wait until the afternoon to do it, and then they don't do it because it's like it doesn't get done. But if they start earlier in the day, it actually gets done. So
isn't that true? Like
you do the one thing that you don't want to do first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Isn't that funny how energy actually works, by the way? The magnetism and attraction, to where the fact that, like, if I say to myself, you know what, I'm going to take down Christmas lights in 2 days. And then in 2 days it snows, and you're like, well,
It's
it's
a
snowing.
real thing, bro.
It's snowing. No,
Have Christmas lights
no,
up.
ours are down. Ours are down. But it is that thing, it's the way of life. You
Yeah.
tell yourself, you know what, I'll wait a couple more days. And then, like you just said, Star,
then
it
a
never
couple
happens
of
because
And you're like, oh my gosh, they're still not down.
something else happens in 2 days that's more important, right? So you continue to push this thing off.
Yeah.
We talked at the very beginning, like right when we launched this, we talked about the concept of surrounding yourself with the right people.
Mhm.
I think that is so critical. It is absolutely critical. So for those that are watching live, or those that may be watching the replay later, like, continue to surround yourself with the right energy. And in order to do that, you need to be authentic, and you need to connect with people that are like-minded and have been through some of the same things as you in life. And just that in itself is a huge, like, how many times for even the three of us, think of it in that fashion, let alone expand your network into 40, 50 people.
Yeah.
How many times do we even have to provide a little bit of encouragement, or a little bit of lift up on saying, you got this, you could do
Oh,
this.
yes,
you
all
do this.
the time.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
time.
Around the right people for that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an
Like-
age thing.
As I get older, my circle is going
Yeah.
smaller and smaller, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I have like 5 friends because
Oh, see,
now I'm being
We
very
have a lot of friends though, Tina. A lot of
Yeah.
people support
yeah.
you.
like my close circle, like
Yeah.
people that I would run to, like for the first thing. It's like maybe 5 or 6 people. But I have learned that when I'm out, and I used to be an extrovert until COVID hit. When COVID hit, I think I went into an introvert. And what is that when you go to extrovert? You can be an extrovert for a couple hours, but then you need to be by yourself for the rest of the day. Is that like a hit? There's a word.
I don't know. I don't remember what that's called. But
I feel like my
Yeah.
energy is sucked away when I'm networking now. And
Yeah.
even in my friendships, if I
Yeah.
go and my cup is all the way full and her cup is all the way full and we're filling each other up, then I have a good friendship. But if I go to somebody and have lunch with somebody and they're constantly draining and draining and draining and draining, and I leave feeling empty,
yes.
I kind of, not that I stop being friends with that person, but I just put a halt to how many times I see that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless it's like something they're going through something traumatic, of course,
Exactly.
be there for them. But yeah,
Of course. But even that, like that's sometimes when you really have to just, that's the part of coaching. When somebody, because there are people that fall into patterns. There are people that, and we've all been there at some point in our life. But when, like, you wake up and you put yourself in a negative state, you look for the negative things online. You're promoting the negative things online because it's familiar, right? And you know that if you show up in a pattern of being familiar, that's your comfort zone, regardless of the negativity or not. Sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it. So it is about patterns. It is about, breaking through those things. And you need these disruptors in life. One mentor I had a while back, they used to wear a rubber band. And whenever things were just kind of becoming very mundane or whatever, they would snap it. Have you ever heard of that? So they would snap it as just a disruptor.
Yes.
And that little bit of pain and that little bit would be like, oh yeah, I've got to push through this.
Yeah.
It was just a mechanism. Same thing as tapping.
Yes.
People that do tapping and things of that nature as well. So here's the thing. Like, if you're watching this and you're going, man, I'm running this journey all alone. I'm not sure where to even start. This show's a good place to start. You obviously landed here not by accident. Any one of us would be more than willing to have a conversation with you. I think that mindset really kind of crosses the gap when it comes to just mental health in general. And I just want to say this in this episode that, there's a stigma around mental health. And so each and every one of us has some portion of that. We've been through something in life that's really triggered us, brought us into a state of mental, just dilapidation, right? And just where we're just not there. We don't have the strength. We don't have the support, whatever it may be. We're questioning things in life. And so, we have to continue to attach ourselves to people that can be my crutch for the day, like help me through that next thing. So we can be there. That's, mental health awareness. So many people think that, the reason why there's a stigma is you think that if I say I'm crazy, or if I, you think of the people carrying me away in the white coats, right? Like, so no one wants to admit that they're suffering internally and mentally in life, but we all are to some fashion. And so, but it's really about having the tools and being equipped to push through to the next level. And it starts here. It starts in conversations. It starts with a phone call. It starts with messaging someone in a back chat. And if those people aren't lifting you up and they're just jumping on that bandwagon of negativity, then, they're just going to continue to be your anchor. So.
What was that old saying? Like, they always say your grandmother used to tell you, you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with,
So
if you
true.
hang out with a bunch of thugs, you're going to be a thug. If you hang out with a bunch of millionaires, guess what? You're probably going to be one of the next millionaires.
Yeah. It's by association. It really is. And on every level, right? It's not just, wealth is a broad term. So any other thoughts as we kind of wrap up in regards to, what are just focusing on the next right steps? Aside from that, is there anything?
Tell them what types of things they can do to uncover those mindset blocks. So gratitude.
Gratitude is the big one.
What's another one, Star?
Another one I like to share with people, the ikigai, which is a Japanese technique where you take a look at your personal life, what people come to you to get support with. What do people come to help you with when you're in the workforce? If you have a career, what did people come to help you with, to ask you questions about there the most? What did you go to college for? What types of jobs have you held? And just kind of write those things down so that you have self-awareness of your true ability to perform what it is that you're questioning or you feel that you're lacking. Because oftentimes people feel that they're lacking and they are totally not.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And we all have a different way to measure what we think we're lacking in life. You talked about it, I think, at the very beginning of the show, Star, when you talked about sharing your wins, even like the little things. Mm-hmm. And so, one technique I would, propose to everyone is continue to look at those things. Even if the whole world is caving in on you, write down down to the smallest thing. Like in the fact that I'm writing this because I have the ability to write this. Mm-hmm. That's a win in itself. The fact that I'm still alive here today provides me with an opportunity to shift and to make a change in life. And so that's one win, the fact that I'm here.
You know what? One thing that I used to do with my kids, we used to do high-low. So at dinner, we would have dinner together. And I'm like, what was your high-low? And they would always say, well, my high was I got a B+ on my math test.
Yes.
And what was your low? Well, my low was, we would do low first and then the high, because the high, you always want to end on a high note. Right. So then they go, well, my low was that so-and-so didn't play with me at recess. And I'm like, okay, so what can you do tomorrow to make so-and-so want to play with you, or ask so-and-so to play with you? And so we would always kind of shift that away. So I liked all that because they would always share their wins every day. And they would always share their struggles too. And then I would know what they were struggling with that I could help them with, or, just be more supportive. So I like that too. So. Yeah,
I like that. That's a great exercise. Yeah. That's an absolute great exercise. So, I mean, that, kind of just ending where we started and all this, right? The quote that I gave in the beginning was, you don't have to be great to start. You just have to start to be great. And so it's the little things, it's the little wins, it's the slighter edge in things. We assume, we always want to be instantly gratified, but just think about those small little wins. Instead of sitting there going, you know what, my goal was to make 20 or 30 phone calls today and I didn't achieve that goal.
But I got 10.
Yeah. Or did you even make one? Like, to be great, you have to start somewhere, right? And then build. And so when we talked about those disruptors and those patterns, we have both positive and negative patterns in life. So start focusing on the positive patterns that will slowly replace the energy that you're giving and feeding into the negative ones. And so those little things, those little routines every day. And I cannot dismiss the way I'm going to close out for me personally here is that what you do in your morning routine, even if it's 15 or 20 minutes, sets the tone for your entire day, whether you believe that or not. Because as Star said earlier, that if you have intentions of I'll do this after lunch, it's probably not going to happen in most cases. So think about that right off the beginning of the day. Think about the little things in life. Surround yourself with positive energy. Listen to programs like this and many other amazing ones, and find somebody that can actually mentor you and just be kind of your crutch in times when you're in a rut.
I 100% agree. I think your morning routine sets the tone for the rest of your day.
Absolutely. Anything else before we close out?
No. Just start.
Right.
Start a little bit at a time.
That's it. We appreciate each and every one of you. You're going to be seeing some shifts and changes even in our own program. Follow, like, and share us across social media on the Uncensored Entrepreneurs. We appreciate you. If you have other ideas and topics to talk about, we're completely open to them. And also, we're always looking for special guests. We have a special guest next week, so stay tuned. You won't want to miss that episode, and we'll see you once again on the inside.
Bye, guys.